Welcome to TeaKettle Talk. I'm your host, Eldridge, and to my right is my sister,
Dartania Winters,
Bes McGee,
and Allison Backstrom.
All right, so tonight we're going to be pulling and sipping from the tea kettle, but before we get started, everybody, I think I might need something to get in the mood. So, to my sisters, tonight we want to know, what's your frequency? So have a sip and a seat. All right, who wants
Tea is hot tonight.
Yes.
Who wants to pull first?
Okay.
We're gonna let you do the honors, Bes. Go for it.
Okay.
Yay!
Okay. First question of the night. If you could say one thing to your younger self, what would it be? Ooh, I'm already up. Go to bed early. If I could say one thing to my younger self, I would say to always stay true to yourself and do what you want to do. Put yourself first, and when it comes to your dreams and your aspirations, go for that. Don't listen to nobody trying to tell you otherwise. Go for it, and you're not selfish for doing it.
Okay.
The same thing, that you're worth it, you're of value no matter what anybody says to you. Love yourself. Love yourself unconditionally, because if nobody else will, you sure will, and you have to.
I would say go sit down somewhere. That's what I would tell my younger self, to go sit down somewhere. You are absolutely beautiful. Go sit down somewhere.
And I would say to my younger self, you have to go through something to get somewhere. And on that note, let's pull from the kettle and sip some more. Ooh.
All right.
Let's mix up the tea.
That's the question. Yeah, the incident.
Incident. Kim Kardashian West faced fierce backlash after she launched a now renamed lingerie brand called Kimono. Also the name of a centuries-old Japanese garment. Rihanna was criticized in July for posing in a traditional Chinese clothing on the cover of Harper's Bazaar, China. And recently, country singer Casey Musgraves came under fire for styling a traditional Vietnamese garment in a way that many people found to be inappropriate for a concert in Dallas, Texas. So ladies, should popular fashion trends include styles or components of dress from others outside of their mainstream culture? Is it inappropriate to wear clothing styles from other cultures? What do you think?
That's a good question.
I think it depends on the way that it's being done. Is it being done in a way that, dishonors a culture or a people? Or is it being done in a way that honors and brings light to something good about their culture, that it's not being done in a disrespectful way? Like, for example, Rihanna appearing on the cover of Harper's Bazaar. It was Harper's Bazaar China. So they were appealing to the Chinese woman. So I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. Wearing a traditional Vietnamese garment at a concert that's deemed being worn in an inappropriate way, okay, well, that's offensive. You know what I mean? If you're taking something that's special to somebody and completely, dishonoring it, or using it in a way that makes fun of or whatever something of a culture, then yeah, it's inappropriate. So I guess it's situation by situation.
I think too, the difference that I saw, being the analytical person that I am, I saw that Rihanna was within the culture that she was representing, whereas Casey Musgraves was down in Texas. What you doing in Vietnamese clothes and you in Texas? I could see if you was in Vietnam, then you would be, like you saying, honoring the dress there and the culture, because you definitely don't want to be somewhere wearing shorts like we will wear in Texas, which you expect to see Daisy Dukes, or a cowboy hat or whatever. You wouldn't want to see that overseas in Vietnam, so then you would dress according to the culture. So to me, that's what I think it is. And if people have mainstream cultural ideas, then you get maybe you have the designers from that culture design things and tell you what's appropriate to put within the norm, that's the tradition that's gonna be outside of their norms. You know, maybe ask them how they feel before you just do it. That's the way I think, you know.
Yes.
So that's all I'm gonna say.
I think Allie summed it up great.
Yeah, not putting a long slit on a Japanese inspired dress. And they, are required to be covered up in some cultures.
Right, I mean, certain things that you do can be done disrespectfully. I mean, like, no matter what it is with, like appropriating cultures.
Right.
Like, I mean, as far as I'll say, like with white women, with dreads, with braids, it depends on the intent behind it. Is that just part of your style? Then I guess that's part of your style, because I'm gonna tell you right now, I've got braids in my hair. But for me, that's just part of who I am. I do my own hair. I love different styles. But when you're doing it in a way that you're attempting to be like a Black woman, that's stupid. When you're trying to do things because a certain person does it, not because it's part of you. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, then it's just,
so don't hate me if I want to wear green contacts either.
Right. Exactly. It's right. I think as long as anything that you're doing, as far as if it involves another culture, if it involves like anything else, if you're doing it with respect to that, then I mean that's what it is.
That's the huge thing, respect.
Yes.
It has to be done in respect and tact.
Yes. Absolutely.
And respect is that term that you do have to ask the people, what does respect mean to them? Because what I think is respect may not be respect. So that's the thing. Respect, honesty, loyalty, trust. Anytime you want to know what those mean,
Ask the person that you're going after. Yours may be different than mine. Your definition may be different than mine.
Right. Even I always say to people, you can have a conversation like we having this conversation, the four of us. You having four different conversations, because you have to think about how each person is going to receive what you say, and probably 4 or 5 times in that conversation you're going to change it around. So even like dress and clothing and things like that, like you were saying, Allie, you modify according to cultural norms. But the key thing, I think, like you said, with the respect, is to ask some people and just be open to the human spirit, how somebody might feel about something, is what you're saying, Bes.
Yes.
So, all right. What else is in the kitchen?
All right.
Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Your turn.
All right. My turn to pull?
Yes.
Your turn to pull.
Your turn
Come
to
on,
pull,
okay.
girl. Come on. Make
I don't want to burn myself.
Ooh.
Blow it off first. All right, here we go. Why is it important to forgive?
Oh,
That's a good one.
Oh, that's easy.
Forgive me if I don't know why.
I know exactly why.
I need some tea.
Oh, we'll take a step. It's important to forgive because I love my peace of mind. I'm not going to hold anger or resentment because that's just giving me negative energy. I forgive for me, not for you. I forgive because I don't want to harbor any ill feelings. So what's done is what's done. I always forgive. Doesn't mean I forget, but I forgive for me.
That is absolutely it. You forgive, but you do not forget.
Correct.
I think that was perfect.
It was absolutely perfect.
Allie, you
Just think that a couple more minutes.
If they take all the tea buds out of it, all the whole bag, I took everything.
Well, it's either this tea or it's the cup of herbal tea I had earlier.
Okay, and then I put fresh leaves in there too. You know, there's some fresh leaves in there.
Oh, yes.
Eucalyptus mint.
All righty then. Oh my God, Jordan. Okay. All right, y'all. My hands are on fire. I'm glad because my hands are always cold. So like, okay, can you cook? Yes, I can. And what's your best meal? Well, one of the things that I discovered, I know I can cook. When we grew up, we didn't have anything, so we had, from the time I remember, being 5, 6, we all had to get in the kitchen like we were talking about before. Remember, we were talking about being in the kitchen. And I remember my mother's grocery buggy. She had 2 grocery buggies because I was second to 9 oldest, so I helped my sister that was 8 push another buggy. And in one of those buggies was dry goods. It was things like meal, flour, sugar, all kind of the dry goods, macaroni, rice, all those kind of things. And then in the other buggy, it was canned goods. I don't think I saw meat until I was 12. But to say that, it all jest and everything, what I can cook really, really good, I discovered is that I can make the heck out of some dressing if I really, really get down to it. I got a secret about that. But one thing that I learned from my ex-husband, hi Anthony, was how to make barbecue sauce. I make the hell out of some barbecue sauce. I made some barbecue sauce that I learned to make from Anthony Sneed the barbecue sauce, I don't know why he didn't bottle it. It is got some kind of Louisiana flavor. He's from Lake Providence, Louisiana, shout out. That barbecue, the sauce would hang on to the meat, not drip. And I can't tell you what the secret is on camera, but I'll tell you what the secret is off camera. But it's so good. So that's one of the best things I can make between my dressing and that barbecue sauce, girl, please.
You make the sauce, I'll make the barbecue.
Right, and
whole
Thanksgiving
body.
is coming up, so we might as well get a taste.
Wait,
I got a rock on
Yeah,
dessert.
we have a Friendsgiving, right? The week before
Friendsgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Like y'all can take a bite.
Oh, y'all, I got.
She got desserts.
Okay, so she gonna do
I got.
Oh, I can do a mean sweet potato pie.
Okay.
I got to take
might break down.
We gonna teach baby how to cook.
No, my favorite.
But she gonna bring ice.
I got the one.
There you go.
The best meal that I cook is a seafood Alfredo.
Okay.
Well, seafood is shrimp, scallops, and then I also put some chicken and like some sausage in there.
So
But-
Gemini, you cooking?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 weeks from now.
Yes, 3 weeks from now, we'll have a very special edition of TeaKettle Talk. We'll have a pajama party here.
Potluck edition.
And the potluck, I don't know. It's somebody
With the dressing.
With the
Right.
We'll see about
Oh,
that.
I made egg rolls too, y'all.
Anywho, what else?
Okay.
I can cook. I can fry some chicken.
And you can make the hell
I
out
can
of
grill.
butter cookies.
I can make
Oh
some
my
butter.
God.
Thanks
Butter
to
cookie
my
lady.
auntie.
Oh my
She
God.
shared the recipe with me. That's why I got the name Cookie Lady.
Yes. If this one could
Yes.
do some cookies, that's what I wanted for my birthday. Cookies.
From scratch banana pudding.
Ooh.
I know how to make that too, but I don't eat it.
Yeah.
I don't like it either.
Well, on that note, y'all didn't get to know. I might make y'all some dressing. but you take it all home. There you go. Fill the kettle. I happen to be off Thursday and Friday, so. Yeah.
Oh, we're still in
We
more
doing it
tea.
again?
Yes.
We're spilling tea tonight, baby. We're spilling tea
There's a
tonight.
lot of tea in that kettle. Do you see how full that thing is?
There is a lot of tea in there.
Okay, unwanted touches. Have you ever experienced it? And how does it affect you? So it kind of depends on what unwanted touch.
And who it is.
And who
Anytime
it
you
is.
touch me and I don't want you to touch me, it's an unwanted touch.
Yes,
And for me, it's when people walk up to me and they do this. And you can see me cringe and I'm trying not to slap somebody and I'm like,
Yeah.
please don't touch me.
I'll just react to this
I'm like,
question.
you okay?
Man, if anybody that's watching knows me, you know how I react to unwelcome touching. I do the same thing. I'll cringe at first, and then I'll say, please don't touch me, but
This
I
turns to
do.
somebody else.
I do not like to be touched.
Then giving you a massage package is out the question then, huh? I think.
I mean,
And she had to think about that?
Her face cringed though. She's like, but see, I like massaging. That's a welcome touch.
I honestly could probably do a massage and be fine with it because
Okay.
I've mentally prepared myself that this is what's going. It's more of like if I'm sitting somewhere and somebody comes up and they're like, hey, it's like instantly like I freeze up. It's like unwelcome touch. Like if you're not presenting yourself like, hey, I'm right here, I'm gonna come and hug you. Yeah, I don't. Unexpected touch is not welcomed at all by anybody.
Everybody
Ever.
has a sense of don't touch me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I didn't know you was gonna touch me. Don't touch me. I think everybody kind of has a sense of that. Mine comes at work.
Okay,
like,
okay.
Don't tap my shoulder. Like,
Okay. Is it startles you or?
Right. Trying to get my attention. Don't touch me.
Okay.
Speak louder.
As opposed to coming up behind us and, excuse me, Bes,
Yes.
within earshot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, I don't touch people at work because I worked in HR for years.
Inappropriate
And
touch.
I understand that it's not my intention. It's the perception of the person who received the touch about what the touch meant.
Yep.
So for me, it's not so much about me being touched as it is for me being cautious about how I interact and how I touch other people. Because I'm a hugger by nature. But I say to people, hey, are you okay with me giving you a hug? Or sometimes I can sense the energy of the person and I don't want to hug them. I don't even want to shake their hand. Okay?
Right.
It's that simple. But I think it's so important that whether a touch becomes unwanted because people don't negotiate what intimate space is. Now, we all know that this is intimate space right here. If you come closer than this, you're in my intimate space. Now, out there is social space, and then when you get further out, it's public space, like outside. So we have to know what our spatial boundaries are, and also spatial boundaries, but remember, differ by culture, because collectivist cultures, such as people who are of African or maybe Latin descent, are different in what they perceive as violations of social space and what would be an unwanted touch versus someone who's in a European culture. So just something, or a non-collectivist culture. So just something to think about. And you can find research. So alrighty. Do we want to move on to the next question or?
Who's next?
It says live right there.
Maybe afterwards.
The other one loaded.
Okay.
We're not showing.
Shall I read?
Because it says live.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Women will cheat on a man for working too much, but will be faithful to a man in prison.
I'm sorry. Wait. Reread that.
Women will cheat on a man for working too much, but will be faithful to a man in prison.
I'm laughing because Alice wasn't here when we talked about it. So she's like, what?
Yeah. She was.
I'm not gonna say the first thought that popped into my mind when I read this, or perhaps I should.
Perhaps you should. That's what the TeaKettle's for. You supposed to tell us what's.
Oh, what the fuck is wrong with you? Which women are we talking about?
So look, that facial expression say.
Exactly.
I'm bringing my baby lunch at work. Is what I'm doing.
You need some, boo-boo? You need some?
Right. You work those long hours. I'm gonna massage your feet and bring you lunch at work. Let me tell you.
Oh my God.
You on your own in prison.
Right. Look, I told my you get one letter and $20. That's all I can do for you.
Oh my God. I can't even.
One letter and $20. That's my match.
That's true. But you know what though, to speak on that, because I seen that question on Facebook, and to speak to that, it was also another post that said, why do people feel like they gotta go through stuff to be in a relationship?
Right.
Or to be in a strong relationship.
The
You feel like
struggle.
you gotta go through the struggle. And I think that's where the I'll be faithful to him in prison, because when he come out, he gonna think I'm his ride or die. I ain't trying to ride or die for nobody. You might as well pull me over and let me out right now. I'm not riding or die for nobody.
See, you said that before too, and I guess for me, the ride or die has a whole different perception. It's not necessarily that you have to go through any drama. For me, the ride or die is no matter what we go through, no matter what life brings your way, you got my back and I got yours, whether we poor, whether we homeless, no matter what anybody says, that when it's ride or die, it's we loyal to the end.
Right.
But is prison the breaking point? Is prison the?
It depends on
I'm gonna say it depends on the
why.
circumstance.
Yes,
It depends on the man. It completely depends on everything. Now, if this is somebody that I'm just dating and he did some dumbass shit, bye. I'm not even giving a letter and $20.
Oh, did she say she ain't giving a letter and $20?
She said you get one letter, $20. You only get a letter and $20. Now, if
Help
this
me
is somebody
with
that, if this is somebody that I've been with and, you know, we have that established that like, you know, something in life happened to put him in that situation,
Okay.
but we have been here.
Like he was protecting the family, somebody was trying to break
Something
in the
like
house.
that.
and
That's different.
Right,
Yeah.
and we
That's
here,
different.
and we here in a relationship before this, I'm gonna stand by him.
Right,
That's
right.
a different circumstance.
That's
so.
different from somebody just doing something to get them taken away. Like if we together,
Mhm.
don't
Right.
do nothing that could potentially get you taken away from me. Like you out here selling drugs or you out
Right.
here scamming, knowing that
Right.
if you get caught, then this is not
Right,
gonna be a thing.
right.
Right. If you want to so-called be that for me and be my ride or die, go to work.
Right, get
Really
a
ride
real one.
up to the
Ride mass
employment
transit.
office.
To
Ride up to
the
the job. Ride up to that bank, you know, to set up that direct deposit. If you want to be a ride or die for real, do what you need to do for us to succeed later in life. Don't do nothing and not think about the circumstances that could potentially come afterwards.
Oh, that was funny. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's.
All right, that's why I totally forgot what the
question.
question was, but it was good.
Would you, what is it?
Next tea kettle topic.
Oh,
Because that was perfect. Yeah. All right, y'all. Didn't you get burnt?
I took all the heat out of that.
My hands were sweating over here.
Okay, I need my glasses because I can't read this. Come on.
You want me to do it? Okay. So Mary J. Blige lands a role in Aretha Franklin biopic Respect. MJB has been cast to play jazz singer Dinah Washington. The movie is about Aretha Louise Franklin, who was born March 25th, 1942, and who went to heaven August 16th of 2018. She was an American singer, songwriter, pianist, and civil rights activist. And because Aretha Franklin made the song Respect a hit with the line RESPECT, find out what it means to me. RESPECT. Take care, TCB. Okay. Hey! Okay. It became the woman's anthem. So the question of the night is what does respect mean to each of you, and how does it equate to TCB, or taking care of business? Well, don't know your way in it was.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it is.
Respect it simply means that you don't cross boundaries. It's how you treat somebody, how you talk to them, basically how you want to be treated, speak to somebody that way. It's respectful. You can't just talk to people any type of way you want to, or treat them any type of way that you want to, and expect to be treated well. Basically, respect is something that's earned and not given by simply, you earn respect by giving respect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm gonna say what I think Meek said, talk to me nice. That's how you show respect to me.
Mm-hmm.
Treat me like I'm a human being, care about the way that I would feel about things. I feel like that's showing respect, is caring about how it would affect the other person.
Okay.
Most definitely.
And
Okay, so I agree that it's about affecting the other person, but I tend to think that respect resides from individual to individual. That's to me, is how respect resides, because it's different from person to person. I think that each person has their own ideology of what respect really is based on how they grew up. Because for some families, if you think about respect in a relationship, when I worked at the clinic, I remember that there was this doctor there, and this was the first time I ever saw this. So imagine you go somewhere, you're 19 years old, it's the first time you really have a job outside of retail. And I was working in the medical industry, and I was a medical transcriptionist in a dermatologist's office, which was in the first HMO clinic that they had in Milwaukee, right? So on the floor down below me was all of these surgeons and stuff, and I never forget that there were like Indian doctors that were there, and when their wives would come in, they would walk behind them, steps behind them. And I found that to be odd, but for them and their culture, it equated to respect the person in the family. There's also other rituals and things like, I know in my family, respect was Like if my grandparents came over, my granddad ate before everybody else ate. Him and my father ate, and that was like the women's way of showing respect. Or like if there was a lot of older people in the house and I was like younger or whatever, all the kids ate after the older people ate. So I don't know if those were things that happened in your family or what have you, but those were some of just one example of how respect was shown in my household. So even now, I address people with a certain type of a salutation or greeting. I don't just say, if I see a lady and she's 90 years old, I'll walk up to her and say, hey, Shirley, how you doing? You know, which I see a lot of people do that now. They don't have any respect for their elders. I'll say Miss Shirley or Mr. So-and-so. And even now I catch myself, the person can be perceived to be older than me or even higher in stature than me. And I will give them the respect. Judge so-and-so, your honor, or whatever. It's just me. It's the way I was raised. I don't know about you, but that's how I equate respect.
Mine was just this past weekend. I was at the store and, you know, I say yes.
Oh, and then
ma'am,
the last thing I
no,
want to
ma'am.
say is pronouncing people's names right.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one for me.
Shows you care.
It shows
about
you
what
care
they
about who they are and you
actually
respect them as a person.
Yes.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, so I was just at the store this past weekend and I say yes ma'am and no ma'am a lot. It don't matter if you young, old,
Right.
the janitor or the CEO. I say yes ma'am, no ma'am. It's just
That's how we
respect.
are.
Growing up, my mama asked me something, my grandma asked me something, yes ma'am, no ma'am. So I said it to the girl, she was like, oh girl, I'm just 21. I'm like, you still don't think you deserve that type of respect because you just 21?
That's interesting.
I'm gonna tell you this, like I noticed this. Women in the North, more so, hate being called ma'am. They see it as you calling them old by calling ma'am. So I always hated being called ma'am.
Okay.
And then I moved to the South,
Ooh.
where I was called ma'am countless times a day, and you just understand. Right, so you get to a point where it's not a disrespectful term, it has nothing to do with age. Many people, like, I mean, if you live in the South and your mother heard you spoke to an older person and not say ma'am or sir, no, that's not acceptable. So in the South, ma'am and sir always, that's what I found, no matter what state it was, that's what it was. More towards, in the North, they see ma'am as, you know, an insult, whereas they might say Mr. or Mrs. referring to an older person versus sir or ma'am. But I mean, my children were taught to say sir and ma'am as well, and that is just a matter of respect for people. So
It's true. For me, it's when children answer back what.
Oh, girl, I would have been looking up trying to figure what the hell did happen?
Which child I'm gonna get them off. Because even when adults answer what back, it's like when you say what, it seems like I'm aggravating you. You can just say yes. I don't care to say but to say what?
it's like Pulp Fiction. Say what one more time.
But to answer me with what?
Yeah, that just even sounds disrespectful.
Like, no, that's just one of my respect pet peeves.
Les Brown had this saying, you know, if you could look up, if you could see up, you could get up. I know if I would have said what to my mother, don't worry about looking up, because you ain't never gonna get up, no matter what.
I'm telling you.
What time we got, y'all? Let's see what time we got. Let's do one more, because
You need one more.
One more.
You need to pull one.
I do?
You do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Why?
Because you the last one. We've all pulled two already.
All right.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
And if you all want your tea to go into the kettle, please message one of the four of us and let us know, and we will get your tea.
Even if you want some advice,
Right?
you got a situation you want us to discuss, let us know.
Yes, and all you need to do is you can Google us, V.O.I.C.E S RandomISH, and we come up on the top. So there's no excuse for you to find us, subscribe, like, share, and post comments that we can use for ideas on our show. We want to hear your voices out there. That's the purpose of this show, is we want to engage in dialogue that you find to be enlightening to you, that will inspire you to uplift others. And on that note, I'm going to read the next question for us. As we approach the holiday season, many of you will be interacting with a family member whom you haven't seen in a while and others that you see daily. We know that when family gets together, it can be either a party or a disaster. So the question of the night is and this pretty much is for everybody out there to think about. You really want to think about this. How do you attain and maintain healthy family connections and the relationships, especially during the holidays? I saw, what was it, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation? If you watch that movie during the holidays, it's hard to be upset, you know. But how are you gonna maintain those family connections during the holiday season? Because it's right around the corner.
Pass.
Oh, that's easy.
What you say, pass?
I said pass.
Well, sometimes
I
outside
need
is better.
advice.
She needs advice on what to do.
Oh,
Come
mine
on,
is
audience, we need advice on what to do if you don't know what to do. Go ahead, what would you do, Allison?
Oh, mine is easy. I have my mother and my children, and we all get along, so easy peasy.
But how do you maintain that relationship? I mean, is it because you have a stable relationship with the person, you don't clash, and then you don't have anybody that shows up? But let's say you had that one irritating family member. How are you gonna get through that holiday season with that person?
I mean, I am probably the least qualified to answer this question because honestly, like I never grew up around any of my family whatsoever.
Okay.
Besides my mother, my father, and my sister. My father passed away.
Mm-hmm.
My sister lives in Boston, but we don't speak to each other. So really, the only family member that I have is my mother and my children.
If when you were younger, let's just say, well, even now, if you had a friend or something, how would you interact at that when you go to your friend's house and maintain that relationship? Because think about it during the holidays, it's not just your family, it's your extended family. I mean, think about us, we your sisters, and how are you gonna maintain your connection with us during the family holidays?
Maintain my connection,
Yeah.
or I mean, more than likely, I mean, if you guys are around, I'm gonna be with you on holidays.
Yay! That means she'll be here almost every day, y'all.
Mhm.
I'll be in Chicago with my family.
So with your other family, right? So she'll have to Facebook us or FaceTime us. Facebook
FaceTime
us,
while
all
you
that.
all are doing all of the fun stuff.
I don't know where I'll be. Hopefully booed at with your son. No,
Don't hurt somebody.
Well, she'll be here with me. I'll be on the couch watching the Macy's Day Parade and just chilling. I'm going
Charlie Brown.
Oh, you ain't even lying, baby. Oh, yes, that is my thing. One of my teams that I was when I was a trainer at Time Warner Cable. One of my teams, I talked about how much the classes that I had. I told them how much I know Charlie Brown. They gave me the whole box set. So yes, y'all, I would break it out Charlie Brown Halloween. And the stuff we don't even know that Charlie Brown did. I'm gonna get it all. So, all right. So we want to ask you, what are you gonna be doing specifically, other in Chicago specifically?
I will be spending Thanksgiving in Chicago with my aunt, and we had a very, very good time. Like last year was probably the first time we really, really enjoyed each other's company.
What did you guys do?
We enjoyed each other's company. We sat down and played cards.
Okay.
We played spades.
Oh.
Y'all know, got
Yes.
Hey. We played spades, but you know she's got it upstairs, downstairs. So we had the kids, you know, they did what they wanted to do. The grown folks would have adult conversations and drinks, and you know, we set up the buffet tables and we all cooked. The old time, you know, we stand in the kitchen, we hold the conversation as we're cooking, you know, just the old vibe of when my grandmother was alive. Like
I'm thinking in my mind, I'm getting pictures and images of remember when Soul Food was on TV?
mm-hmm.
And that whole thing when they used to have those Sunday dinners and sit around the table and stuff, you know, for me, that's what the holidays used to be when I was growing up. It was, you know, you sat around the table, you ate and stuff, and now her big critics say, what, potato chips? No potato salad. What the hell happened to the soul food?
Right.
So, you know, it's good that you're going to be going and getting some of that soul food.
Some of that. And then we're going to exchange names for our Christmas. Exchange. We do a gift exchange.
We should do that.
For Christmas.
We should do that among the four of us. We won't get each other's names. We should do it.
One name.
Yeah, we just set a limit and
worry
we're
about buying for a gift.
Yeah.
One gift.
Yeah. We good.
Like a secret Santa.
Yeah.
Oh, we can do it like a white elephant. Like
Oh my
everybody
God.
just come with a gift and put it on the table. And then we can steal it from each other.
Oh.
So we can steal it.
She's bad people. That's maintain relationships, you still a gifts from family. But hey, you can always play the right left game too. You can put the 4 gifts on the table, the right left game, put numbers under the seat, and when you're done, you just go in the order of the numbers under the bottom of your seat where you end up and pick a gift off the table, 1, 2, 3, 4.
But what if it's my gift? I want your gift.
Then
I
we
want to be able to
then I get to beat you down and take it. All right. Okay, so Randomish family, V.O.I.C.E.S Randomish family, we need your help. We want to get to 1,000 subscribers so that we can stream live on YouTube TV. That is the way that we'll be able to stream live. Once we get 1,000 subscribers, it will allow us to broadcast live. Until then, we can broadcast live, but we won't stream on YouTube TV. So you can help us by getting us to 1,000 subscribers by subscribing to our channel, liking, share, commenting, so that we have additional topics, because we really want to hear from you. We want the V.O.I.C.E.S Randomist community to determine what the topics are going to be. So we ask that you, again, subscribe to our channel. You can find us simply by typing V.O.I.C.E.S Randomish right into YouTube and or into Google, and you will find our Facebook channel and our YouTube channel. And on that night, people, we got one question for you. Until next week this time, we want to know, what's your frequency? Deuces, everybody.
Deuces.
That's why we don't, that's